David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping my father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." The story of David and Goliath is one of the most familiar stories of the Bible. Sports broadcasters and announcers like to use this story to explain great teams versus not so great teams when the odds heavily favor one side of the competition. Remember Super Bowl 42? The New York Giants came into the Super Bowl as 12-point underdogs against the undefeated New England Patriots, who cruised to a 16-0 record during the 2007 regular season and set numerous offensive scoring records. The Giants, on the other hand, limped into the playoffs as a wild-card team with a 10-16 record. The Giants had overcome long odds to even make it to the Super Bowl because at that time, no wild-card team had ever won a championship. The two teams only scored a combined 10 points when the game entered the fourth quarter, but that helped set the stage for one of the most exciting games in sports history. The Giants took a 10-7 lead after Eli Manning hit David Tyree for a touchdown, but the Patriots countered with a Randy Moss touchdown reception from Tom Brady to reclaim the lead. That set the stage for one of the best finishes and one of the biggest upsets in sports history. Going into this matchup, everyone was calling this a David and Goliath contest. The story of David and Goliath is shared with little children to teach the lesson of overcoming great odds and how little people can do great things. However, this story also has something to teach young people and adults. We know the outcome, we know how the story ends, but how did David muster up enough courage to face Goliath when no one else could? How did David stand up for the Lord against all odds? Let us examine this clear-cut situation. Two nations are at war, Israel and Philistine. The dispute could be settled by simply sending down their respective champions. The champion of the Philistines is Goliath, the famous giant of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span, which, taking the cubit at 21 inches, is equal to over 10 feet. Truly a giant of a man. For 40 days, Goliath called for any challengers, but none came from Israel. There are giants we have to face today. Problems and concerns can feel like giants. Health, financial, marital, government, employment, children, these can all look like giants. Sometimes these giants have names. Names like debt, mortgage, recession, terrorism, anthrax, and cancer. Or how about drug addiction, infidelity, and violence? Large corporations fold in the face of some of these giants. We feel powerless and unequipped to handle the giants in this new millennium. Like Goliath, these giants are standing in the valley, intimidating us, scaring us, putting the spirit of fear in us. But there is some good news. The good news is that others have faced these giants and walked away victorious. Others have stood toe-to-toe with these giants and came out on top. Giants don't have to win. We can overcome the giants in our lives. Now, let us remember the other characters in this story. We have David's brother, David's big brother, the one whom David no doubt admired and looked up to. However, when David suggested that someone should go down and face Goliath, his brother tried to discourage him. One of the first things that we must do if we are to conquer the giants in our lives is to overcome discouragement. There will be people close to you who will try to convince you that you cannot beat the odds, that you cannot beat the system. The giant is too great and you are too small. But with God, all things are possible. Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Do not allow anyone to tell you that you cannot conquer and overcome the seemingly giant problems and obstacles in your path. The next person we see is King Saul. I see Saul, at this particular time in his own story, as a lover and not a fighter. We now live where a lot of people think that they are lovers and not fighters spiritually. They do not keep fighting for their marriages. They do not keep their communities free from drugs. They do not keep their children from the wrong crowds. They will not fight for anything. However, the children of God are called to stand up and fight with the weapons of God: prayer, praise, and the Word of God. We are not called to fight each other. We are not called to use physical violence, but we are called to use what Martin Luther King Jr. called as soul force. Draw a line in the sand. Tell the evil of this world, this is far enough, no further. So how did David muster up enough courage to go down and face Goliath? David says that he has fought the lion and the bear, and that God has delivered him from both of them. The lion likes to hunt at night, under the cover of darkness. The lion likes to keep its prey in fear with his loud roar, and then he seeks out the weakest of the group to separate them from the rest. The devil is described as a roaring lion in 1 Peter 5:8. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. The devil cannot destroy you, but he can scare you to death. This is how he tries to conquer our souls, by making a lot of noise. He fills our lives with so much busyness that we cannot hear the voice of God. Problems seem greater than they are because the devil amplifies and magnifies the problems in our lives. However, David had the testimony that God has delivered him from the lion. David had the testimony that problems and challenges that he had in the past that seemed too big to conquer, God has already delivered him. We should learn from our own experiences with lions in our own lives. When we were kids in the dark, the monsters under the bed scared us, but God has delivered us into adulthood. Therefore, we should not be afraid. We should use our past experiences with God to help us stand for God in the face of present and real dangers. Secondly, David recalls how God also delivered him from the bear. In scriptures, the bear is more furious than a lion. In Amos 5:19 we read, "It will be as though a man fled from a lion only to meet a bear, as though he entered his house and rested his hand on the wall only to have a snake bite him." And also in Proverbs 28:15, "Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a helpless people." The bear is certainly a very cross animal. The name that was given to it in the Bible times means a grumbler or growler. It hibernates, lying dormant during the winter months, then comes out hungry and grumpy. That is a bad combination. Some people are like that, ambitious and irritable. Anything will set them off. They are always complaining about something. Problems in the world, problems in school, problems in the family, problems in the government, problems in the church. Something is wrong with everybody and everything. It's too hot, it's too cold, too wet, or too dry. Nothing seems to please them. And then they attack you. They attack your dreams, they attack your plans, they attack your hopes. If you have never faced a bear-type person, just keep on living. However, David had the testimony that God had delivered him from the bear. It is based on these testimonies that David could face Goliath. David had the faith that with God's help he could face the enemy. David believed that if God delivered him from the lion and the bear, he will surely deliver him from this giant. You can face the great challenges when you realize that God has delivered you in the past. When you realize that God has delivered you from sin and temptation, you should be able to stand for God now in the face of wickedness and unrighteousness. Because the Lord has saved your soul, you should stand for Him. Every trial, every tribulation, every test makes me stronger to face the giants in my life. You will be able to say the same. God brought me through that one, and He will bring me through this one. After you have conquered your lion, after you have conquered your bear, you will be equipped, trained, and capable of conquering the giant. In the 11th chapter of Hebrews, we are told how the heroes and heroines of the past were able to conquer and overcome great obstacles in their spiritual journeys by faith. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. By faith, David was able to conquer Goliath. We too will be able to conquer the giants by faith. Faith that has been forged by experiences, faith that has been tried by lions and bears, faith that has been through fire of disappointments and setbacks. By faith, we will be able to stand for God in this present age.